really important information that has been archived before these guys wiped it. So they weren't ready. They weren't ready for, like, a lot of people are on this, and they're going to be interested in what needs to come.
And Suleiman,
Um,
real quick, just since they brought up censorship, I'd be curious if you want to touch on really quickly the Trump move, or at least the right wing, and I think it's a Zionist push, which is basically utilizing some of the very vulgar, and I'm clearly against it, but some of the awful rhetoric in celebration of Charlie Kirk's death, and the right of all people using this to say we need to collect data on these people, we need to contact their employers, we need to get these people kicked out of their jobs. It's something that seems to run so antithetical to traditional conservative values and the whole concept of free speech. But I'd be curious if you want to add any thoughts on it, or if anybody else wants to consider it as part of their
yeah,
response.
yeah, we'll definitely talk about that, because I think we'll talk about that. I think it's really important to talk about, and we'll come on to it in the second part of the space. So do bring it up again, Ian, in a few seconds. I'm not, like, discarding it or minimizing it. I think it's really important. If you look at it, I've been tweeting out a lot about it because I feel like I'm like the a lone wolf in a world of madness where everyone's literally gone insane, and everybody wants to censor each other, and everybody wants to dox each other, and everybody wants to take each other out, and everybody wants to do all that. And I think, bro, you're being controlled by the Zios. Am I the only one who is sane enough to see this and is consistent enough to stand against censorship? Like, what is going on? Do not let them control you. Anyway, George Galloway just tweeted this. He wrote, I believe the horrific wound we saw in Charlie's neck was an exit wound, meaning the kill shot came from an entirely different direction from the roof and that he may have been killed by an unorthodox weapon. No rounds recovered speaks for staggering incompetence or worse. But then Luke Rudkowski, very nice guy. I met him in United States of America, knows his guns, knows his kind of like weapons, has very strong knowledge of all of that. Said, I think it was also an exit wound, but I think the round moved so fast the camera didn't pick it up, and originally the round went into the chest. So that's Luke's position. Maybe I should get Luke in on here. Should I get Luke in here? Because I've got Luke's number actually. But he may not want to come in a space. He's not. But let me message him. Yeah, so that's another interesting point. I can't mention Luke. Maybe get him in here. He's a good guy. I think he's got a big YouTube show as well. I don't know if you guys have. He used to be part of Tim Pool, if you know who I'm talking about. So Jack, that girl, jump in with your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. I'll just say, first of all, thank you for revving this space up. Hey, Solomon, everybody who's here, Simon, Ian, Dr. Michael, Brother Public, everybody, Mango Smash. Okay, I cannot wait to read this article because of what Khaleesi said. Because this is somebody who didn't know about, like, didn't care to even look at what Charlie Kirk was saying or whatever. Probably just, and I'm not like assuming your thoughts for you, Khaleesi, but just probably was like, okay, MAGA, shill, hype guy, whatever. And you said he was a profound man when you were done reading that article. It makes me want to read that article, so I will be reading it. And I will be telling people about that article, on my platform and everything, because I think everybody does need to read this article, because at the end of the day, no, I don't think, I know everybody needs to read this article, because at the end of the day, number one, it cannot be this way where people are getting assassinated simply because they don't want Americans to go die in a war for Israel, right? So it's like, what is going on? And it felt like this anyway from when it happened. But that part of it, I will say, I did not think about. I didn't know he was even giving pushback behind the scenes with going to war with Iran. And we do know that Israel is still, this before the year is out, I do believe that something will pop off there, because Wall Street Journal was talking about that. So, this is what happens. You take the money, you think it's okay. Look, everybody's on a journey. You believe in the things you're saying until one day, at some point, you kind of start waking up. I don't know how far he got into his wake up, but he got too far for them. And the fact is, for Turning Point USA's head man, Charlie Kirk, we used to laugh and call him Mr. Israel. We used to make all kinds of jokes about him, creating content and everything. Now this guy's coming out. If he was to come out and be vehemently against a war with Iran or anything that they're doing, yeah, they can't have that. They can't. Influencers are very powerful. It's just that way. It shouldn't probably be that way, but it is just that way. And he was going to, it would have been a huge problem for them because they couldn't write him off as just some low grade anti-Semite. Oh, he's just being anti-Semitic. This is Mr. Israel himself, you could say. And, you know, that would have been an absolute issue for them. The other thing, too, with that assassination that I just realized today as a registered nurse, and I don't know why I just realized this, handled all wrong after he was shot. And I'm telling you this as somebody who's like I practice medical, right? When he was shot, he was not supposed to be picked up and thrown in the back of some SUV and driven to the hospital. That is absolutely insane. This is not Haiti. That's not how we do things here. What was supposed to happen in a big event like that, there was supposed to be, first of all, an ambulance just somewhere around, right? That in a big event like that, you always have some sort of medical team chartered, right? But when that happens, though, even if you don't, you're supposed to put the person down on the ground. Somebody's supposed to hurry up, run, apply pressure to the site, and start doing chest compressions while someone else is calling 911 and the other person's getting the AED machine. None of that happened. None of that happened. So in order to get something done like this, that means that there were people who had to be in on it, because what would make you pick up that body and put it in the back of a truck and say, well, we can get to the hospital faster? That's not how it works. You give compressions, you get the AED machine. You guys were at a university, they have an AED. And then you wait for the little hospital to come to you, that is the ambulance, to take you to the big hospital. He could have probably survived. So it's just a lot going on there. And I cannot wait to read your article, and I'm going to share it, tell people about it to the ends of the earth. I can't wait to read it.
Let's not forget, too, they took the tent down as well, very, very fast. So you couldn't see where the entry or where the exit of, or if there was a bullet around or a hole in that tent from the exact direction. About that girl, Casey, I think you nailed it. Like, from a medical hospital standpoint, they did it completely terribly. They did it incorrectly. This is not the medical way. This is not the professional hospital way of doing things. It was weird how they just dumped him in that truck and then took him out of there. It didn't even look like they were compressing his neck correctly. It didn't even look like they were holding his neck. I saw some Zionists talk about, oh yeah, they were like holding his neck. But when you watch the video and you look at it closely, right, it doesn't look like they were actually putting pressure on the neck, on the point where the blood was pouring out like crazy. And that should have been the main focus the whole time, not carrying him and putting him in the truck like idiots. The main focus should have been stopping the blood first from gushing the way it was, and then getting the ambulance to come pick him up and take him to the hospital. So that's very big facts right there, that girl, Casey, where it goes once again to show that it makes no logical sense what these Zionists did here, other than the fact that they killed him. You know, they killed the guy. That's what they did here. That's the only thing that makes logical sense. But I think that just goes to show and kind of proves my point that the gunshot might have not even came from a sniper. It might have came from one of those guys. You know, who knows? But that's a little bit further of a theory there.
So I've just been sent a message. Apparently, the BAP network is attacking us and attacking the space and attacking our position. Obviously, we know they're Zios and Zio controlled. I believe they attack Nick quite a bit as well. They got some kind of beef or something. Because they're Zios. So I don't know why they're crying. They wrote beyond parody. Ain't a parody, bruv. Wake up and learn the truth. The Zios killed Charlie Kirk. I know you find it hard to accept because you are occupied.
But also, if a Zionist wants to come up and give like the alternative argument, like we're here to debate. We don't want an echo chamber. So why attack? Like just come up and rely on the strength of your arguments.
I'll tell you guys why, though. I'll tell you and Simon why, though, right? I'll tell you and Suleiman why, though, right? I think it's because they're mad that people figured it out. They can't fathom the fact that people know this, that people know that it was Israel that did it. And that's the only reason why they could attack, because they can't defend correctly. They can't actually come up here to debate with actual information and actual facts. The only thing they could do is attack because they're mad. They're really, really mad that people found this out. Without, you know, and we're really just... kind of like saying it as well on the spaces and kind of, but even when you look at comments from like small accounts, right, that like even the smaller accounts are saying it, the big accounts are saying it, the mid-sized account, every account's damn near saying it, and they can't fathom it. They can't fathom the fact that people have caught on to their genocidal acts.
Mofit, can you give us, or someone on the panel, give a quick rundown of the case for Israel killing Charlie Kirk? Because I didn't see the space until a few minutes ago, so I just got here. Is there anyone who can like kind of sum it up? Because I haven't seen anything about this on the timeline yet today.
Yeah, of course. I'll do it in a second, Manko. Just a quick one, guys. It looks like the Zios are losing their mind over the space as well. So Eyal Yakubi, you know, the guy who doesn't feel safe, he just said, he just did a tweet. And what was this tweet? People are sending me some mad stuff, bruv. Uh, so he said, a group of Pakistanis are being directed to sow confusion and chaos in America. Elon Musk, why do you tolerate this? So basically, once again, asking for censorship. This is what I was trying to explain. Like, when you're supporting censorship, the only people who are going to be control of the censorship are Zios. Just think about it logically. When the right are saying censor and the left are saying censor, do you think you have the power to censor? Do you think that you've been given this ability? So when you get what you want, which is extreme censorship, who are those in power? It's the Zios of, according to you guys, the Jews. And what will they do with that power? They will use it to censor you. Just think about it smartly. So these guys are in power. Now, in terms of what you're saying, yeah, obviously, my origins are definitely Pakistani. I ain't denying that. My grandfather was born in Pakistan. They moved to the UK in the early 60s. But that being said, we're not here to divide America. I think I've been literally one of the few people who's been saying, don't do civil war, peace. Don't listen to them. Don't cause destruction. Don't destroy people's lives. Don't dox people. Don't do all these things, whether they're left, whether they're right. Have free speech. Keep America united. I've been literally the opposite of sowing division. It's these Zios like Eyal Yakubi and various others who want to destroy the United States of America. They want civil war. Because what's going to happen if there's civil war? What's going to happen when there's doxing? It's going to be his daddies who are in charge. It's his daddies who are going to be in charge of the software. His daddies are going to be in charge of Palantir. They're going to be controlling you. They're going to be tracking you. They're going to have a digital ID on you. They're going to know every single thing you do. And this is what Eyal Yakubi and the rest of them want. So that's the reason they're getting upset, because they don't want someone actually the opposite to bring cohesion into the United States and the United Kingdom, to bring love into the world, to bring peace into the world, and to not have Zionist control, which is there to destroy Christianity, Islam, the white race, and everyone else. This is the reality of it. So this is what they want.
And for
They're
anyone,
angry about the fact that they're being exposed. Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
sorry, I thought you'd finished. For anyone that needs to hear it, if you're born in Britain, you're British, and we don't mess around with this. Oh, right, God gave me land 3,000 years ago, therefore I don't care about law, order, intellectual property rights. So if you're born in Britain, then you're British.
Yeah, let's go to Michael, and then I'll give a quick recap to Manko. Michael?
Hey, yes, hi, how you doing there? So good to hear you all, and very interesting analysis that you gave, Solomon. And what I'm concerned about, and I'd like to do analysis too, and not being a reporter as such. What concerns me, besides the possibility, very strong possibility that that the Zionists killed Charlie Kirk, which is a tragedy in itself, is the way they're going to use this and have been using it already. As others have pointed out, I mean, the Netanyahu posts about Charlie Kirk are outrageous. They're trying to make him into a Zionist martyr because they need the support of this young right that was very steadily and increasingly diverging from the standard view amongst this right about Israel. They were starting to become very questioning and very, I say, a great deal of disapproval. And so Charlie Kirk was already addressing his audience to this effect. And he was getting a lot of pressure from his audience about this. So they're trying to recuperate that part of the right, using the Charlie Kirk assassination as the kind of the fodder for that. And then we see this far right, these right wing, like the guy that's the editor of the Federalist and others, calling for total cancel culture of leftists. And so they're, as you pointed out, Solomon, they're trying to put this back on the right-left axis and turn the right against the left, as instead of towards the Zionists who are controlling everybody. Controlling the state, at least controlling our government, as we've seen, as as the blood was drying, they already went to in Congress. You had Lauren Boebert, the stripper, I guess, trying to get past the anti-BDS legislature, slipping it into the NDAA, and successfully doing so. And then you have, of course, this guy Brian Mast, the guy that wears an IDF uniform to work at in the Senate, trying to pass legislation, as has been pointed out, to strip Americans critical of Israel of their passports. I mean, this has been a slippery slope. We've seen, students arrested. We've seen even residents, U.S. residents with green cards arrested. They tried to deport. And now they're saying that if you criticize Israel, a citizen could lose their lose their passport. And what's next? Citizenship? I mean, it's been going further and further into this repressive Zionist dictatorship. And we need to absolutely refuse it and resist it with everything we have. And, the Charlie Kirk thing is, whether they killed him or not, and I strongly side to the idea that they did kill him because of the reasons that were given, and also I think a few others, like I said, about the young right defecting from the Israeli narrative, and that's a big audience that Charlie commanded. Charlie Kirk actually worked for Turning Point at one point, did some speaking engagements, had met Charlie Kirk. When I started to criticize Israel, he started to DM me and asked me what I was doing. And I tried to explain myself very clearly. Look, Charlie, they were talking about regime change in Iran. I think it was about, and he goes, well, they're trying to back off from that. And I said, yeah, that's fine. But this is all just to make the bombing of Iran less problematic by comparison with regime change. And I didn't hear back after that. But I think Charlie was an honest broker in the sense that he was trying to get at the truth. I think he was largely blocked by the funders that he was beholden to. And when he began to show any resistance and to turn down Netanyahu, Netanyahu garnered money. Netanyahu could pick up the phone, call Adelson and say, look, send 40 million to Charlie Kirk's organization or whatever, and Charlie refused it. That's a big deal. And as you said, his take on Iran, bombing Iran, and also he did call the onslaught in Gaza, he went so far as to call it ethnic cleansing. So he didn't call it a genocide, but he did call it ethnic cleansing. And so I'm concerned about the way they manipulate and use everything to this end of repression and control, and trying to make speech illegal when it criticizes Israel. The Project Esther from the Heritage Foundation, I think, is the blueprint for this administration, especially in terms of Israel. It's all about vilifying all opposition to genocide as part of what they call Hamas Support Network, HSN, they call it. And they say that there are all of these HOSs, which are Hamas organizations, support organizations that they think are all over the place. So they say, so this is the blueprint, is this Project Esther. It is a blueprint for making all criticism of Israel and conflating it with support of terrorism, and any support for terrorism illegal. So they're trying to move us to the point where criticism of Israel and their atrocities, genocide, and belligerence all throughout the region, bombing some 9 countries within a few days, a span of a few days. They're trying to make this a crime. So they're trying to criminalize our speech. So it's time for the United States to overthrow this occupation. And that's important for not just the United States, but the world at large. The world's welfare depends upon the United States overthrowing and getting out from beneath the yoke of Zionist control and tyranny. It is incumbent upon all Americans to foist off of this yoke, to find a way to support candidates that do not vote for sending arms and aid to Israel, that do not support genocide, that don't kiss the Wailing Wall, that don't express complete obeisance to Israel and all of its imperatives, that don't run the United States of America according to Israeli desiderata. And that's what we're under right now, is a complete Zionist tyranny in the United States, getting worse by the day as they try to push more legislation on us in response to this killing. I think they're going to use that as a way to crack down on speech deemed a support for terrorism. That's the next step. I think they'll continue to push laws like this into the legislature from the Senate and Congress, and with very little pushback, because we don't have many anti-Zionists in the government at all. We have two, as far as I can see, maybe four others that are, in the of course, AOC is a fraud, and there's maybe a few, but for the most part, we have a Zio-dominated Congress and Senate, and they have to be extirpated from the government. They must be removed, and that's why I founded Ozempic. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Dr. Michael. Yeah, I agree with I think I agree with everything you said, actually, from most of it, what I heard. In terms of, we've got a couple of super chats, but important to the conversation. The first one is, Suleiman, did you see the removal of the camera right after Charlie was rushed into the vehicle? I can barely find videos on YouTube for X anymore. Was he ever brought to the hospital? Will we ever see an autopsy report? I'm convinced the shot came from the right side. Multiple shooters were used to secure the shot. I think that's a good point. I think that's a more like a good position, actually. Yeah, because I am inclined towards the position that the actual shooter was the shooter. But if the argument is that he was, and then in addition to that there were others, then I'm very, very receptive to that point, with obviously a decent amount of evidence, because that guy's connections obviously you're going to find out soon. But in terms of that, yeah, there is a possibility, and I have seen that, like, yeah, a lot of videos have started to get wiped out from it. I know the archives of information was removed. Luckily, a few people were able to archive it. Sorry, not to archive it, to get the information from some of the social medias. Obviously, other social medias were completely wiped, but at least some of them people were able to archive before they wiped them.
It's very possible. I just want to add one thing really quick. It's very possible both things could be true. Maybe they had two shooters, and that's why they had the guy counting down. If you guys remember, the guy who was giving those hand signals, so they let it off all at once. Who knows? It could be one that was close range, one that was a sniper. Could be, just so they confirm that he was dead and killed correctly.
Yeah, that makes sense. There could be multiple shooters or multiple people in multiple positions, but maybe only one carries out the shot or something. But it is interesting. There's also the argument that what the wound what we saw was the actual exit wound and not the entry wound. That's an interesting argument as well. And also just one more super chat from Abdo, who says, let's all mark the community note on this space. £10 super chat, who says, let's mark the community note on this space as not helpful and not needed. We can't let them attack the space. Yeah, do that, guys. If anybody's in community note, Sprite is unhelpful. Obviously, Zio's attacking it. Just want to welcome Gary onto the stage. Gary, I hope you're well. How are you?
I'm good. I appreciate you guys holding the space. Really tried to decompress from all this and get my thoughts about what the heck's going on, because just listening to all this stuff over and over is not helpful. I came in about, I don't know, 40 minutes ago, and you guys were talking about, the agenda. And my perspective when it happened, and still to this moment, is this is like The enemy is extremely dangerous, okay? At this point, they are just basically fuck you in your face. And I think they're really threatening people, whoever did this. Um, it's not just him and his family, it's anyone. It's you, Solomon, right? It's everybody. Uh, Basically, I think the message is, hey, we'll do whatever the fuck we want, when we want. And it doesn't surprise me it was done the day before. I mean, this is what they wanted you to see with Trump, I think. Um, Sad day in America, but I lost my dad when I was 8 years old, and I believe my dad would want me to get out my big boy pants and start fucking voicing an opinion, because I think really, if we look back, what's the Beatles song? Says, or somebody, they killed JFK, and he said, yeah, and we're all to blame. I think on this one, at least Americans, and maybe I'll just speak for, I was going to call myself privileged, but I don't think I'm privileged. I've worked my ass off. I've had some lucky breaks, but I think we got lazy with freedom, and we didn't pay attention. So I don't know how we get this back, but I think these are indicators of this has to be a fight now. I don't think you can talk your way through this. Sadly, I mean, what they did. If you would have been any other corporation on the planet and you wanted to push out the boycott message that they did yesterday and pass the bill, any other society other than Israel would have said, "Hey, let's pause this for a little while. This is not very politically sensitive, right?" I mean, minimally. No, they said, no, we're going to push it down their throat also, while everybody's in shock. So it's about as bad as you get, I think. What are you guys proposing we do about it? Maybe Michael, I don't know much about Michael's program, but maybe that's, uh, I mean, this group's going to raise a shitload of money, right? They'll probably raise $1 billion in the next couple weeks. Um, does independent funding? The problem is you can't. There's no audits in any of these groups. It's such a freaking problem. I'm sorry to go on with problems. I like coming up with solutions. Um, it just seems that it's very, very, very toxic. This happened with someone's knowledge. Okay, like this shit doesn't. And by the way, Solomon, I know a little bit about weapons. A 22-year-old kid didn't make that shot, dude. The guy that you're talking about with his little package underneath his arms. If you just notice the way he stepped back, it's total military. I mean, it's 100% uh, just the way he stepped back. He was so aware of what was getting ready to happen or had happened. Just my observation, but you watch something 40 times. I mean, you don't have to be stupid to observe the obvious.
Are you talking about the guy on the right of Charlie Kirk?
Well, there's three guys. There's actually four, but there's two guys right back. One guy in the dark, this big husky guy. He's most certainly Mill. Then there was the guy with the cap that everybody thought was giving signals in the white shirt. And then there's another guy to his right in the green khaki shirt, I think. Big muscles, sunglasses. He has something under his right elbow, well, under his left elbow, and moves spectacularly at the same time as Mr. Kirk's head almost fell off his shoulders. And it's looked very similar to a weapon that they used or suppose they used in the JFK shooting. Little two pistol, non volatile. Anyway, I don't know if you heard the story about the JFK. The driver turned around. I mean, that film's been there forever. Nobody pulled it up. Anyway, so it just it's tragic, man. But it's
And Gary, if helpful, I just put up into the nest. Sully, I never would do so, but it's a video that has the close up. It's about a minute long, and you can see there's the guy immediately to his right that Gary is commenting on. and there's also two people that are behind him, where it looks like, I mean, a guy has his hands in a fashion like he's holding a pistol. I'm not saying it's either of them, but the video it shows what Gary's referencing really pretty with clarity.
Yeah, and I also added in the comment section, and the way you get there, guys, is you click that lower right bottom button. This is 412 right now. It's purple. I actually put the comparison between what Gary was referencing, the JFK assassination, with that driver as well, which I believe to be true as well.
Are we finished, Gary?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, some other obvious things. I don't know how you can get finished on this subject. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could fucking rant. Like, I could really go off. I'm actually trying to be really careful, which is really what I would love to talk in a group of sensible people. Hey, like, what's next? What actually needs to happen for us to get a clear result? You know, kind of hard to plan a future when you don't know who's running the show and what the agenda really is. So you know, look, some of the I gotta say, and I don't really want to buy into it, but some of the funeral stuff, okay, some of the, like, my mother couldn't have done that when my dad died, okay, like, that's she was fucking composed as shit. I mean, and I put my heart out to her, okay. There's just all kinds of things that don't make sense about this case, except that this went for 100% shock value. I mean, I can just imagine whoever made this order, they were like, dude, make it as messy as you can.
I mean,
This
just
is
on that,
psychological. Like, there's a psychological piece of this, okay? It was too violent and they had to know it.
yeah, just on that, Gary. We did a live space when the wife came out and gave her speech, and it was just incredibly bizarre that it was a speech so soon after witnessing the event, and immediately within the speech was embedded, you know, the sign up process, and you know, just really it was just really really bizarre. Look, I mean, we've all suffered family losses. I remember when I lost my father. I'm not going to be going up on a podcast and you know, trying to get people to sign up to a website in the midst of honoring my father, you know, within 24 hours. So it was just incredibly bizarre, um to have, you know, that kind of, I don't know, we were all talking about it live.
Yeah, most certainly it looked like theater, right? I mean, however you want to, but it was put on for max enjoyment, dude. Really,
And Gary, the
max
one thing
enjoyment.
I wanted to say on the fundraising side, is the challenge is that the Zionists, they're using, firstly, taxpayer money, and secondly, um, people that are contributing have a business model. So you've got massive
Yep.
corporate interest that are investing millions because they know they're going to
That's why
make
I thought,
billions.
Simon, that's why I thought that the boycott word was a peculiar word for them to use, because I have maintained since you've known me that we ought to all just shut up and open up all our credit card statements and check box on every one of the guys we do business with. Is this my enemy? Check. Is this my enemy? Check. Is this my enemy? Yes, he is. Oh shit, I ain't doing business with him tomorrow.
No, I agree on that
Boycott.
because
But if they use the word boycott, I found to be fascinating, because that's the only way we hurt them, dude.
no, yeah, I
Okay,
completely
we don't go to work tomorrow morning. That's what I think we should all do.
yeah.
In London, in Spain, in Europe, in America, we're not going to work. Fuck off. We're not going to spend any money either. The whole fucking country. Okay, peaceful, but in volume. Release the Kraken.
No,
That's the only way this gets done, man.
I agree with it. Like, for businesses, it needs to be more profitable not to support Zionism than to support Zionism, because they contribute, millions to these politicians, and they're going to make $1 billion back. It's an ROI for them, so they can keep contributing at scale. We can never compete with that. But if it's more profitable, and that's why it's so important to make Israel a toxic asset. Like businesses, it needs to cost them so much to be associated with Israel that taking the other route is a good business decision. And that's when we reverse it. And I feel like I know it's very negative, Gary, but I feel like we've progressed towards that goal significantly. So we need to put pedal to the metal, and we need to keep doing that. It needs to be supporting Zionism is the worst business decision a business can make, and we are moving towards that. There is a big movement towards, like, this just doesn't make sense to support Israel anymore. So we've got to keep that momentum, and you as an
And
individual.
and Simon, by the way, because the Israelis, and by the way, I am the least racist person I know. Okay, I don't really care what. I think all religions have gross flaws in them. Okay, there's no one I agree with, and I think some of them, all of them, have something to offer. This is not a religious point to me. This is some group of people that I'm calling Israel. I just do not believe that all those people are lunatics. Okay, it only takes a fucking small percentage of lunatics to fuck up a great thing. And if we don't, like, if we know if we know Hollywood is full of people who in fact would use Hollywood and have a reason to use Hollywood to extort this crime. In fact, I would say that you have to have Hollywood and news media and pharmaceutical in your back pocket and banking to perpetuate a crime of this scale.
They do.
Exactly. So guess what, man? I just made it easy for you to figure out who we don't need to do business with. Boycott these fuckers. Don't burn anything except your credit card.
I want to mention too, Gary. Now that you mentioned that as well,
Tell all your
really,
buddies you did it.
right? But that's absolute facts too. I want to agree with what Gary was saying. That's 100% true. Absolute facts. I just want to say too that while they were kind of in a way distracting us with this news, about the back and forth, they are also not mentioning the fact that they passed a bill. They passed two bills, I think. They're trying to, or I don't know if they did or they have not yet, but they're working on doing exactly what I think it was Michael you said earlier, which is taking passports and actual citizenships now, and they're also in the works of trying to control America and how Americans want to spend their money by telling them what they can and can't boycott as well. So this is what they were doing on the back end while all this was going on. So this was like this whole Charlie Kirk assassination that Israel did was like this was a 5D chess move where it was not just to take him out for many reasons that we've explained earlier, but it was also to distract us from all the stuff they were going to do, like such as Marco Rubio also taking a visit over there and having to bow down to their wall over there.
And also remember, I mean, Ian can give you specific names, I'm sure, but like the JFK film was funded by Zionists to give you an element of truth, but not the full truth. So they will fund these films in order to, make you feel a certain way, and they'll divert you away from the full story and just give you a bit of the story, so you feel just enough to send you on a complete rabbit hole to nowhere for decades to come.
So Simon, Frank Mankiewicz, the PR director for the film JFK about the assassination, was also the press person for RFK, and according to Sam Parker, was the one directly responsible for suggesting that RFK go out through the pantry after giving his speech, which is of course where he was shot by Sirhan Sirhan, which is just such a strange coincidence. He was also, for what it's worth, he was on the Richard Nixon top domestic terrorist list that he was putting together shortly before Nixon and the Watergate tapes and all the other incriminating things came out. And so I think you could draw some parallels there in terms of who was behind not only JFK, RFK, also the bringing down of Nixon. And that guy, for what it's worth, not only did he work for the ADL prior to his involvement with the Kennedys, but after He was the president, not a senior person. He was the president and head of National Public Radio for 2.5 decades, influencing essentially what you heard on the national radio broadcast. So when it comes back to controlling the narrative, it's so wild, and the power is so centralized, it seems.
Another point is, the shooter, Tyler Robinson. Obviously, you know that about his kind of possible trans boyfriend or who he lived with. Well, another
Well, what does
important
that
point.
have to do with any of this? Why is that being introduced? It's fucking irrelevant, man.
Oh, there is relevant because, in the sense of it does, like, obviously there's possibly, I agree with all your guys' points. What you're saying, there is possibly some multiple shooters. There is probably occurring from multiple angles. But him specifically, it does seem like there was a web of people who were aware of what was happening. And these people had a couple of important traits. This is obviously, I don't want to expose it, but what's interesting about them is, which aligns with a couple of other people we know, and that is the Krastenstein brothers. When this reporter or this person, we know him anyway, who it is, the person who's going to reveal his information, but they were following the Krastensteins. The Krastensteins were following them, and there was a web of people who knew about this and all were involved in this. Now, I'm not saying the Christians were as well. That's something they need to answer for. But that being said, there is important traits that fall in with the Christians, them being liberal, them being Zionist, them being a few other things that falls in with this kind of network of people. So I think there is a question mark to be held about the Krastensteins because both of them were following them. Now, that being said, I have invited both of them onto the space. So they are given a chance to kind of explain what happened there, why they were following these people, why these people were following them. Were they engaging with this person? I may have read somewhere, I can't remember, that one of the Krastenstein brothers was actually communicating with the person beforehand. If this is the case, what were the conversations like? What were the communications like? What made them follow them? What made them follow them back? What are the implications of it? I think there's some serious questions to be asked about them. I know they may likely be completely innocent, but I think they need to answer some of these questions.
Yeah, my initial thoughts. Obviously, everyone might have competing different views on this, but I feel there's a bit of an attempt to really turn this into left versus right and this whole lefty thing and LGBT, and just really manufacture this into everyone fighting each other rather than looking at what's really going on there. That's my thoughts.
You know,
Hey, can I
I
ask
think
Gary a
it's
question?
more complex than that. I think it's not just that they were left. There's something more to it. So I'm not saying mention those because they left, but there's something a lot more to it as well. They were not just left. There's other attributes, aspects to them that are extremely important that is worth discussing. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know who up here is a gun owner, if you could, like, or into guns at least. But
Gary is.
I am.
okay,
me
Gary.
too.
A 3-06, right, at 128 yards.
Take his head
It,
off.
right. It would like from my research, it would be like at least a 6-inch like a hole in his neck, not a not a ping pong ball
Yeah, and
size.
he would have been hit if people think he had a bulletproof chest vest on and he was hit from the front. He would have gone backwards, not sideways.
Yeah,
Notice how he moves. He was hit from the right for sure.
and, and then on top of it, a 3-06 is about 4 foot long. Supposedly this guy hit it in his pant leg, but he jumped off the building and bent both knees. So how could you have it in your pant leg and bend both knees when you jump off the building? Like that
Yeah,
makes no
and
sense.
it's a very heavy weapon. That weapon probably weighs, with a scope on it, bet it weighs 18 pounds
Yeah,
without the ammo.
and then two more points. This isn't gun related, but typically when there's a violent video, like just a few months ago, there was a kid that chopped off the head of his dad and then started going live. Within minutes, that video was yanked, and no one could post. As soon as you tried to post it, it would say not allowed to post this. This video was allowed to go viral, right? Where actual Republicans um, saying this is war. And then we also saw Netanyahu, which was complaining about Russian and Chinese bots, go on TV and then say this is the radical left and Islam, which is a foreign leader spreading propaganda in the United States, sowing division. like literally doing what he's accusing
Did
other
did
countries of doing.
Netanyahu blame the Charlie Crisp on Kirk on Islam?
Yeah, he did
Yeah.
multiple times.
Wow, dude.
He did the same with the Trump assassination. Yeah.
Yeah, and then his post and Trump's post are exactly at 8:02, both of them same exact time. Like they're not coordinated
Yeah.
or something.
Well, don't you think that the assassin is the one who actually sowed the division?
Huh?
Why would the assassin sow the division?
Assassin is a soldier, dude.
He created the entire incident which caused the division. The assassination of
He didn't
Charlie
create
Kirk is
he didn't
the
create
cause
the
of the
incident.
division,
He simply
not
ran a
the
program.
reaction to it.
He just ran a project, bro. He made no decisions on anything.
So Lee
Yeah, so then you look
Harvey
at
Oswald,
who
Menko, hold on. Lee
radicalized
Harvey
him.
Oswald made U.S. politics go from coalitions into party identity, which is what happened after JFK.
Yeah, I
Is
don't
that what
agree
you're
with
saying?
that.
Lee Harvey Oswald created that? Because that's what you're saying now. You're just saying the
No,
shooter
that
created division,
analogy doesn't work at all.
but it should, based on your theory, that the
No, it
assassination of
shouldn't,
JFK did
because
that.
Lee Harvey Oswald was not some kind of radical, like right-wing Republican.
So what is this guy? Do you have the facts yet?
Yeah, this guy, there's tons of evidence that he's
What
like a far left radical who was in a community with other far left radicals who influenced him.
from one Fox reporter? That's your source of news?
No, it
I would
isn't
ask
from
you to
one
do
Fox
better.
reporter. It's from tons of different evidence, including his boyfriend, his trans boyfriend, including people who knew him growing up, including his family, including the stuff that he wrote on the bullets, which is all consistent with what I just said, including, like, there's a whole bunch of it. There's posts that have been written about all of the evidence that, no, this guy's not a groyper, no, he's not MAGA, he's a left-wing radical.
You know that noticeable
Mango
bulge,
Smash,
by the way,
we've
he's
not
a
seen the
groyper thing, making fun of furries. You realize that, right?
we've not seen the bullets, have we? But in terms of him being a kind of like this left wing, I do believe he is. I believe he's from what I know now, um, based on the social medias that have been released, he's definitely a trans is a trans Tifa guy. So it's like Antifa, but the trans Tifa guy, and they were into like a lot of this stuff. But funny enough,
So
they were
Suleiman, what
actually
is a trans Tifa? Because I can't be the only one not familiar with that term.
He just took trans and Antifa and put them together.
yeah, it's like it's more of a like this weird kind of it's like this weird kind of thing that they've got going on, which is like it's like Antifa, but like they said trans Tifa, but then they were into some like weird kind of furry stuff. I believe some form of like pedophilia as well, some kind of like weird sexual behaviors.
It's a gay communist.
Sorry, what was
It's
that?
a gay communist.
No, it was not gay communist, bro. Like it's into like some weird.
We should really start using different terms. What we might call this, instead of leftist, is domestic Zionism, is what we're talking
But
about.
who thinks this guy's the shooter to begin with? Right now?
But also he from
Zero, I don't agree. Zero chance. Zero. His dad's going to collect $1.4 million for turning him in. Now, how fucking heinous and ridiculous is that?
Wasn't there a war just
Reports say he turned that down.
There's no way this guy did this, Solomon. Come on. Not a chance.
In terms of him specifically doing it, yeah, I'm open. It could have been many other people. In terms of him being out there as a patsy, I think that was definitely the case, right? And for him to become
he's involved in some form or fashion, but he's
what I
not
mean.
saying anything from what I can see.
Yeah, he's not confessing at the moment.
Yeah.
But also, Suli, hasn't there been a lot of evidence that's come out and leaks that have come out suggesting that he didn't act alone? And for example, his boyfriend said there were text messages where he went to go pick up the rifle or something from some kind of
true.
drop spot.
And also there's a possibility that there was actually maybe at least 10 of them that were involved in it as well. And there's also not 10 of them. Why have I said 10? That there was a number of them like kind of aware of this. This one's not a public. So yeah, there was a number of them within this kind of group that was aware of it. Also, they were all like pro-Israel. So this is like a unique point as well. That's something important that people should know as well. So it's kind of it's not like this traditional what people are saying. Oh, he's a commie, he's a left wing, he's this and that. There's like they had some kind of weird,
Well, that
unique
is very
position.
weird, Suleiman, because usually these kind of like far left communities tend to be very pro-Palestine and tend to be very anti-Israel. So
Exactly.
for that to be in reverse this time is really strange.
That's what I mean, and it's a kind of like a weird. This is why. This is what makes them like kind of some weird group. They're into some weird sexual.
So, Suleiman, the group, from what I understood from interviews that I watched, was that group was saying, "Oh yeah, you're gonna leave the gun. We'll go pick it up." It was like almost teasing, like, "No way, this guy did this," and it's like kind of like, you know what I mean? Like,
I
so
think from
Suleiman,
what I
you
know, there
robbed a
was
bank.
messages. There
Drop
was
me off some
messages.
as well.
There was messages from September the 10th when they were speaking about it as well, before the shooting. Let me get it up. I mean, Ryan pulled a tweet out about this. I saw it earlier. Here you go.
Sully,
One of
did
them.
you see the stuff about how there were like cars without a state license plates visiting his address and the neighbors mentioned that or something?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that as well. And Lance, like the boyfriend whose name's Lance Twigs, he was kicked out of his house as well for being like he was saying I'm possessed by a demon, and his pet. I believe his family member, someone kicked him out the house saying, look, like what you're talking about. So there's like a lot of like with this group. I know people want to make it into this like left wing right wing issue, but it's more like this kind of if you want to call them left, okay, but they're into this kind of like weird, demonic, pedophilic, furry type of community.
I mean, Suleiman, is it safe to say it's just very anti-Christian or anti-Muslim, essentially?
Yeah, I'm pro-Israel as well. So this is like someone mentioned, this is not a normal people. So there is a lot of complexities. That's why we don't I don't agree with this whole left wing right wing paradigm, because even this group in itself, okay, you can throw. It's like saying Satanists are all right wing. I mean, I'm not saying they all are, but some kind of Satanist group and then saying, oh, they're right wing or something. I think it's like hard to kind of decipher that when you just I get like when you're putting these points together, you're saying it, but then when they're into pedophilia and then obviously all these other weird behaviors and furriness and pro-Israel, which doesn't really go with it, and all these kind of things, it's really a very weird dynamic.
Do you have the Israel connection stuff that I missed because I came in late?
Yeah, someone's gonna post that soon, so I kind of let it out beforehand because I can't control myself. But yeah, someone's gonna post it. Let's go to Jay. Jump in, Mr. I know. Are you gonna say there's like loads of like 33s out there? There's loads of 33 symbols. There was 3 hats with the 11, 11, 11. His wife had a G on it. Go ahead.
Hey man, I'm not getting into that part of the story right now. It sounds like you noticed some things. So if you want to share anything with us about, secret societies you think are
I
involved,
notice
definitely go right
everything,
ahead.
Jay.
So
I notice
yeah,
everything.
okay. Well, who knows what the possibilities are there? But that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'd like people to focus on right now is, yeah, the push towards the left-right divide. Because if you think about it, right? If that was really an uncontrolled attack that just happened and they really feel like the atmosphere is getting out of hand, then wouldn't the reaction to that be to fear for your own safety? So if you're Charlie Kirk's wife and that you have absolutely no idea how he got killed, and like you don't fear and you fear, you should be fearing for your life if you have no idea how it happened. And for her to just jump in and not call for any escalations, any de-escalation, like in her speech, it just felt a little bit off to me. Like everyone pointed out, it seemed like it was delivered a little bit quickly. But also, if you look at the tone of what she said when she was up there, at no point did she say, hey, the political rhetoric nowadays seems to be escalating in a dangerous direction, and now it's having real life consequences. Maybe everyone should take a step back. We can carry on Charlie's message in a peaceful way. And I didn't hear too much of that. Most of what I heard was essentially, they're not going to stop us. We're going to keep moving forward. There's a problem side in this country that we need to deal with. And, that's what all the Republican politicians are running with. If you look at how everything was set up in her speech, it was clearly, to praised Trump a lot. You had two Trump hats sitting right down there on the table. There was a Time magazine picture of Trump as Person of the Year up on the shelf. She gave Trump a direct shout out during the speech and talked about how much Charlie, loves him. And yeah, man, there's just, it seems like everything is coordinated to turn this into a left-right issue when it seems to be the same people who are behind the overall pattern, of assassinations and main events that we've had happen over here. And yes, it is a large group of people. And, you did point out something interesting, that G ring on her finger. I don't know. I'd like to find out more about that. What does that represent? Is it our alma mater? Like, what does that G stand for? But there was a picture where, her hand was showing off that G ring on top of Charlie's hand when he was there in the casket. So it's some interesting imagery that's coming out. I'd encourage everyone to read between the lines and look at how the situation is being weaponized. And it's exactly what you would do if you were trying to set up a situation to bring in a surveillance state, because you want tensions to be as high as possible, people to be as polarized as possible, because that's when they'll be the most scared. And I get it. It was a bloody moment, for those of us who've been following, the genocide in the middle in West Asia. We're used to a lot of this graphic content, but I'm sure for a lot of people, that image of Charlie getting shot, that was their first time seeing something that bloody in a while. And yeah, it was, a sad image, and it happening here on American soil is like a new development, because we haven't seen that type of political violence over here before. So yeah, man, for us not to recognize this, the escalation from both sides, that's the problem. I think, we're missing the whole point over here, because just this past June, two Democratic lawmakers were assassinated over in Minnesota. And, no one's really talking about that. And if you look at just the FBI statistics, they say more of the quote unquote political violence comes from the right. So now clearly it's a big problem, on the left too. So I'm not saying it's limited to just one side, but the overall tone from people in power, if they were really fearful, I feel like would be, hey, everybody, let's just tone it down for a second. Not, everyone, retreat to your sides, get entrenched and let's get ready to go to war. And yeah, man, that's kind of what I'm hearing right now. So follow the money, and it leads back to the big tech oligarchy, the PayPal mafia, Palantir, and all the rest of the guys who were pushing the message. And Sula, you've been doing a great job pointing out how Elon is weaponizing this. So just pay attention to the pattern, guys. Follow the money. And, Zionists are playing a huge role in this. Are they the only ones involved? Probably not. But yeah, they're playing a huge role in this. And we need to dismantle their power, because yeah, it's a terrible influence on our foreign policy, and clearly on our domestic situation now too. At least if all this evidence, winds up being proven true, and the timing of it is hard to argue with. So yeah.
Yeah, just on that, Jay, like Trump has just announced that he may be doing deportations based upon what they say or said about Charlie. There's this whole thing about releasing a list of 50,000 people that celebrated, and I know many people will find that absolutely disgusting. But the point is, the ICE may be deployed. You then start doing the deportations. That leads to the similar civil unrest as what we saw in LA. And then suddenly, right after LA, we had across all the media how pre-crime Palantir technology should be deployed across America. So it is clearly leading to that, and there are multiple operations that serve that agenda.
Yeah, look, I support it. And not only that, but you're going to see the vast, vast majority of Trump supporters support it. If people are out there in public supporting domestic terrorism in the United States, particularly against us, against the people on the right, then yeah, we're in power right now. We have the tools of government. we will use it and we will fight back. And I absolutely want Trump to deport every single last goddamn one of those people.
Okay, Mango. And then what you'll see is that the same technology will be used against you, and next there'll be a Democrat in charge. And
They would have done
guess
it to
what?
us anyway.
You just
The
celebrated.
fact that we are nice and stay our hand has never caused the Democrats to stay their hand. They always
Yeah,
escalate
I'm
first.
just saying,
They
Mango. You're
always cross
falling.
the line
You're
first.
falling for the trap.
Yeah, who are
It's
we
not a
that run?
trap.
What do you mean we're in power? What are you talking about? The Zionists run this country, hook, line, and sinker. There's no we in power. You're out of your mind.
Okay, cool. And the Zionists care about the Israeli issue. They don't care about all the other issues that concern American domestic politics. There
Oh,
are
yes,
very
they do.
real
It's called
differences.
domestic Zionism. I just defined it. Domestic Zionism. They care a great deal about what happens here. They would love to foment civil war between so-called right and left to keep all eyes off of them and their utter and complete control of our government.
Okay, what's the
Have you
Zionist
not
position
seen?
on
Have you not
illegal
seen all the?
immigration?
Have you
What's
not
the
seen all
Zionist
the?
position on illegal immigration? Can you answer that?
Well, at the
The
moment they
Zionists
won't.
want endless illegal immigration because it destabilizes the otherwise homogenous West, Mancos.
No, I don't
I
agree.
mean, I would agree
I
with
think
that.
their position was pro illegal immigration, which it was, massive pro illegal immigration, and now it's used as a tool to get people to be angry about illegal immigration to cause civil unrest and dissent. So now I'd say it's more anti-illegal immigration because they've caused the illegal. So it's like causing the problem and then causing people within that nation to fight amongst each other about that issue.
Yeah,
You know,
Zionism isn't just an issue. This is the Israeli position, the position on Israel and its genocide. This isn't just a single issue. We're talking about the complete overthrow of our government by Zionists who control every aspect of our country. They're doing it on every front. You'll see when your civil rights are infringed and removed, when you can't speak against Israel or have your passport stripped and possibly even be deported.
Well, if they already own everything and it's a done deal, why did they have to kill Charlie?
well, I would say if you look at his influence in
Wait,
the
let the guy
Republican
who
Party,
said the original statement, let him answer. Don't talk for him.
I mean, we were
I
having a
spoke to that. I
conversation.
already spoke
Jay,
to that.
you
There
talk.
is a contingent of the right, so-called Charlie Kirk's listeners, his fan base, his followers, who are very, very were defecting from the Israeli policy stand. They have control, but that doesn't mean they have utter and complete hegemony. That doesn't mean there aren't gaps in the control. No tyranny, no totalitarianism is ever completely and completely powerful. There's always a chance of pushback. That's why we see dictatorships falling all the time in history. So look, they have to control the audience, and Charlie Kirk was one of the conduits for controlling the audience. They were losing control of that audience thanks to his own disaffection and defection from the narrative. That's why they had to kill him.
So they do control the elites, but there's a lot of us who are in sort of the rank and file who they don't control. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, do they control you, sir? Because I think that's the issue, right? We found out during COVID that 50, 60, 70, 80% of people will be controlled or be quiet. So now we're going through another run, and all of us get to decide, are we going to be activists, seek the truth, and educate and voice out and stop fueling the enemy, or are we going to just lay back like we have for the last 50 years and talk about the news?
No, I agree. We have to radicalize, and that's something that we've seen very much in this past year, that thinking everything will get better on its own, it never does.
See, Manco, you know what? I sense your kind of passion and anger when you're like, oh, if they've been, advocating for violence against ours, then I'd be all up for them being deported and stuff. And I think I didn't actually see some of those comments, right, until today. And I don't know if it's left or right. And I don't really care if it's left or right, to be honest with you, because I don't think you should be speaking about anybody like that after they've been killed, irrespective of what their political views were beforehand, right? So I'll park that there. But then this is what's been happening in America, right? So you've got American citizens that have been held in Israel, and we have seen mass glorification because they happen to be Palestinian American, born in America, American passport holders, American citizens. And I have seen it all over my timeline for 18 months. This glorification of violence, this happiness of people being killed. And some of those are American and a lot of those are Christian as well. So it's not something that's just started now. You know what I mean? It's been happening. It's just been literally put into the limelight. This really disgusting, ugly discourse. We've seen it since October the 7th, but it's just visible now because it's happening on the back of somebody who is very famous, who was very popular with his followers, who did have a pivotal position in America, and who was primarily, up until maybe 6 months, if I read the article that Suleiman's put in the nest, up until 6 or 8 months before his passing, he was primarily pro-Israel, which is why it's so prominent now and people are feeling it. And I think we run a danger of making this about left or right, because look, I've been listening to this space. I didn't post much about him passing in the first day, and I haven't since, actually, to be honest, because I find it quite... I just don't know what to say. I don't think he deserved to die like that. And, I don't think I don't care about his political opinion in that sense, that he just didn't deserve that. And I think it's... more than meets the eye. And when I say that, I mean, like, I'm hearing people talking about... I'll give you an insight into what my mind's feeling, right? So I'm hearing people talking about his trans girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it was, I don't know. And I'm thinking, well, that's convenient, because I'm seeing all the politicians, Trump down, like, literally make statements about the left and how we need to target the left. And, he had a trans girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, and therefore that's a direct link to the fact that he was a leftist radical. I don't know if he was. I don't know if that picture is a person that exists. I have so little faith in what they tell us now. We have been lied to so many times. Does that trans person exist? Are they real profiles? Were they really his boyfriend? Are they somebody that was mentally ill? Is it really the left? Is that just a convenient way? Because I know one thing, right after October the 7th, it was the left. And I know there's a lot of good people on the right as well. And I know Ian and Nick and lots of other people on the right who stood and banged against the genocide. But primarily those student encampments and stuff, they were the left. And I literally said that when Trump was standing for election. I said he's going to be the worst thing for America, because he has a cult following who will follow him blindly no matter what he does or says. And he will go after the students and he will go after the left. And I don't agree with a lot of things that the left do. And one of the things that Suleiman says is they were the first to ask for cancellation and censorship. And now it's coming back to haunt them. And it is. But I think we are now at that juncture where we have to stay away from left versus right, because this has to be everybody's fight to save a country and to save your
people.
you know?
Yeah, and Khaleesi, it's not left versus right when it comes to Israel and the Jews in America. It is much more a young versus old issue. Old
it's
people
not.
are
It's not
much
as
more
complicated as
pro-Israel,
everybody wants
and
to
young
make it
people
out
on
to
both
be.
the left and the right tend to be much more anti, Jewish influence.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And, I do think that was one of the dangers that they felt of Charlie Kirk, because he had such a profound influence on so many young people across America that they could not have him. One of the things that Suleiman's article talks about is that there was a lot of grievance and a lot of pushback on him for platforming people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. I don't really follow Candace much, but, there was a lot of anger about that, because they did have an alternative voice, and he didn't care. For him, it was his platform, and he was going to platform who we wanted to, it was his show. And for them, it's like, well, we're paying for it. It's ours, actually, and you're going to do what we say. And I think the words used were get in line. So when you have that kind of backdrop, and the things that have come out in this article, and again, if anybody's not read the article, it's on Suleiman's page, it's on mine as well. I'm going to go and retweet it again in a second, but you'll see it. With what these... undercover people or informers who were close to Charlie Kirk have shared, it's quite profound, and it makes me question the whole narrative of what they've given in terms of what they say happened. That's the first thing, okay? The second thing is, let's just say, whatever, there's 5 versions that people believe of what happened. Does it really matter now? Because what we should be focused on is what they're going to do. Using whichever narrative you want to choose of what happened, lone gunman, Israel, whatever. What are they going to do? What are they doing on the back of that to America? What's going to happen to civil liberties in America? What's going to happen to us? I mean, I'm worried about Europe because I know Elon's all hell bent on having a civil war out here. But what's going to happen in America? What's going to happen to you guys? And that's where I think the focus is going to be, and it has to be, really.
Yeah,
One
to answer
angle that I think hasn't
Manco's,
been
if you could look up Elbit and you'll understand. Elbit is supposed to be an Israeli company that has surveillance towers on our border that has been questioned by Biden and by Congress. None of them decided to question why they've been broken for years and they don't work. But the media did. The media came out and said these towers have been broken for years and provide absolutely no data and is allowing people in. And what did Congress do? They gave them a $400 million contract to go fix the towers. To expand the towers. The towers that have been broken for almost a decade, by the way. So when you talk about do they want mass migration? Yeah, they sell tech that doesn't work, and they say that they can keep people back and track people and everything else, which it doesn't do. Right.
And
So even just on that alone, that's a problem.
just so you know, the Palantir team are currently in Tel Aviv with Marco Rubio meeting members of the Israeli government right now.
I was actually going to post about that, Simon.
Hold on 1 second.
Michael, I'm going to give it right back to you. I'm going to give the mic right back to you. I'm so sorry. I just want to say something, guys. If you haven't read Suleiman's article, please read it. But also, in the nest, which is just above where you can see Suleiman, Simon, and myself, if you scroll up on your screen, you'll see some posts pinned there. And the first one you see on the left-hand side is the community. It's called the Anti-Zionist Community. Please join that. So the way you join that is just share the tweet, firstly, and then where it says Anti-Zionist Community with that lovely blue and yellow kind of print on top, if you click on that, it will take you to the community, and there you can join it by pressing the plus button where the little bod is. There's 3 buttons. Press the notifications button and press the star button. Let's get that up to 2,000, guys, before the space finishes, please. So if you haven't already, please do join it. There'll be a lot of activity in there. There'll be a lot of news shared in there. So thank you so much. And Manco, thanks for waiting. Back to you.
Okay. So if you guys, I think I've seen the post going around, maybe Ian posted it at one point, that showed, I don't know if it was the board of directors or the advisory council or whatever it was of TPUSA, but it's kind of like the big shots that are essentially going to be running TPUSA now that Charlie Kirk is gone. And it's absolutely chock full of Jews, for lack of a better word. Yeah. So, and the thing is that Charlie Kirk was a very powerful personality. And powerful personalities, we see this with Trump as well, are much more difficult to control because they have one mind and they can change it. But when you get rid of Charlie Kirk, TPUSA, which is a huge organization that looks like it's going to get a lot bigger and has a lot of influence with like the young minds that people want to have influence over in colleges and so on, it is now going to be run essentially by committee. And who's on the committee? Well, we saw it posted, a bunch of Jews. I don't know if any of you have seen that post or you know what I'm referring to. I remember seeing it earlier today, and maybe you can chime in and explain it a little better.
Ben Shapiro himself said that he was going to take over the whole job that Kirk was doing. So that in and of itself tells you something.
You know, one thing people forget is, you know, with Martin Luther King's assassination, right before he died, he was actually doing the Poor People's Campaign, which was more about uniting around class than around racial lines. But, you know, they don't talk about that too much in his legacy. I have a feeling they're going to try to control the messaging around Charlie Kirk extremely tightly and try to, you know, eliminate that last conversation he was bringing up, you know, in the month before he passed. So pay attention to how they try to manipulate the conversation. And, you know, they're already trying to minimize the accusations that he put out there. I mean, you think about it, if it is true that Epstein was a Mossad agent, which, you know, a lot of at least an Israeli intelligence asset, which a lot of evidence points towards. That's a major fact that most Americans aren't aware of. So if he was pushing that, on his college tours and opening people's minds to that possibility, that's completely destabilizing for the establishment. So, Manko, you did bring up a good question earlier, and that was, why Charlie? Why did they feel like they had to take him down specifically? I think it has to do a lot with his organization Turning Points, because it is, a recruiting ground for a recruiting organization for the Republican Party and intelligence assets, and it's getting young people around the country to try to join the Republican movement because, as Khaleesi just pointed out, it's been mostly, young people are mostly on the left, and Turning Points is their best hope of, bringing in more young people on the right. So that's why, he was such an important figure to, try to rein in. And if you look at what's been happening, even with the conversation around Ben Shapiro, whether or not he comes in to run Turning Point, he's already talking about, quote unquote, picking up the bloody mic that Charlie dropped and going on college tours because they know the impact that speaking to young people can have. And that's why they're doing their best to, try to, win back young people into the Zionist movement. But it feels like it's too far gone. I think Simon is onto something when he says it's a controlled demolition, of the Israeli power. I think we'll start to see that because it doesn't feel sustainable. If not, then we're heading to a very dark place if people don't stand up. But I do think it is a controlled demolition because it's too much that's being, exposed right now. And a lot more people are dropping their support for Israel. I think it's pretty hard to shift that momentum back without a gigantic false flag or something crazy.
Hey, Suleiman, for what it's worth, I think Ginny Robinson, who has, I think, 14,000 followers on X, and she worked either with or is still with Turning Point. I think she's down in the listeners and was trying to come up if you want to bring somebody up from their org.
Just while Suleiman does, let's go to Kayla, and then we go to you, Dennis. Kayla, jump in.
Hi, guys. I just want to echo that point that Khaleesi made that, this is not a right and left issue. This is an American issue due to what I perceive as being an enemy force that is really trying to tear America from within. And a lot of us in these spaces, we're educated, we pay attention, we see through what's happening, right? And for me, I think that there's certain people that are doing really incredible investigations that are important. Let's cross-pollinate. The independent media world is terrible at cross-pollinating. And so, if we are the media now, highlight those voices that are doing those good investigations, bring good information forward. With that being said, it's more than just educating people. What is the action plan, right? And I think that a lot of times in spaces, we get so caught up in the details and not as much of well, what can I do right now to go outside, to change my community, to change what the trajectory of my country? And I'm not saying this in a way of go pick up the arms. I'm saying
people
the
are so
absolute
naive, and they
opposite of that. We don't
remain
need a civil
naive.
war right now. We just dealt with
They
open
remain that
borders. We're
way.
dealing
It's
with
pathetic.
missing children. We're dealing with intense crime. So what are we doing? What are we actually doing other than spending hours and hours and hours every single day talking on the internet? What does that do? What is the tangible results of that? And so again, we need good information. We need to highlight good information, but I think that really coming up with how can we bring each other together right now? How can we prove that the left and the right, we can be respectful, we can have dialogue, we can come together to make our communities better, because this really is these final chapters. And I'm gonna say two more points, okay? And they will be quick, I promise.
I
but
doubt it.
Our CIA, John Brennan, every single Tuesday would have a kill list that he would bring into the Obama White House,
we all
where they
know
would
that.
sit down
Thank
and
you.
decide who they wanted to assassinate that week. And I know this because I work with John Kiriakou. We are on the same board within the same organization that's a CIA whistleblower. and watchdog group. And just as our CIA has these kill lists, other governments have kill lists, you know, and so it's like, how do we get these organizations, these intel organizations? The CIA is out of control. They are out of control, and they've been out of control since World War II, you know. And then it's like, what about the Israeli, you know, secret intelligence, Mossad? So we really need to look at, you know, the movements of these organizations, because they have huge societal impacts, and really work to hold it down locally in our lives, in our personal lives, and take the information and do something with it. Don't just listen to the information, like, you know. And I'm saying that as a journalist, as someone that just works within the information world. Like, how do we make it better outside right now? You know, so that's my stance.
Ideas?
She doesn't have any.
Man, just in regards to society, I think that every single human being is born with a gift. I think that every single human being comes to this planet with a purpose, and I can't tell what it is for you. I don't know what your gift is. I don't know why our Creator breathed a soul into your life, but you do. And so every single day, work at that craft and work at that trade, and teach other people and work with other people and be kind and do good things. Like, it's people being true to themselves. All of us are so distracted with the phone and the digital and this. What are you doing in your own personal life to expand, to reach that next level? And I think if everyone really focuses in on that, that's going to help. You know, in regards to the media world, oh man, like I'm working right now actively. I'm a journalist. I love media, and and the news, and I'm right now actively, I founded a news organization, and I'm working to revive local news in my community, because local news is dead. Back in the day, every single person had a local news organization with a paper delivered to their house. And we don't have that anymore. We have algorithms and monetization, and how the fuck is a journalist supposed to live? They're not. So we don't get good information. We don't get the storytellers, the advocates, so for me, I founded a local news organization, and I'm trying to revive local media, because that's my calling, that's my craft, that's my trade. And it's a baby business. It's been around, but I've broken national stories. I've been on One American News. I just interviewed a former Ukrainian ambassador, and I'm doing this in my community, and I'm showing my community, look guys, like, we can make an impact. So that's what I do. But I don't know, it's different for every person, but we are in deep shit if we just keep sitting here talking on the internet and not going outside and doing something to change the situation. So thank you guys for letting me share. I appreciate it. Khaleesi, great. I haven't been on a space with you in ages, but I think this is a beautiful conversation. And my last thing is just, what are you going to do with it? So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for that. Jump in, Dennis.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I guess I'm sort of confused on the purpose of taking out Charlie Kirk for the sake of taking over the TPUSA, if that's one of the reasons for them to do it, because in my opinion, and I didn't really know this about Charlie Kirk until later on, that he actually was speaking out against Israel and kind of turning the tables a bit on that subject. But to me, I think that TPUSA overall was, I think, kind of going out the door. And I think that Nick Fuentes and other sort of more radical right voices were sort of taking over. And I think it's a joke that somebody like Ben Shapiro thinks that he's going to pick up the quote unquote bloody microphone and take over for Charlie Kirk. That's not going to happen. I think that's ridiculous. And I also,
what about Alex Jones?
I think that's also ridiculous. I think Alex Jones.
Did anyone see that? That was hilarious. Alex Jones came out and was like, "I'll do the talk." I was like, "Bro, I actually want you to. It'll be so much content watching all these kids destroy you." But go ahead.
Well, I think Alex Jones, the whole thing with Owen Schroyer, in my opinion, destroyed his career, and I think he was out the door as well with his opinions on Israel as well. I mean, and I think that's part of the reason why ultimately Owen Schroyer, left and went out on his own. I think TPUSA and those opinions are no longer the mainstream anymore. And I think those same people that were out there that were supporters of Charlie Kirk are going to shift to more radical right, like Nick Fuentes, or pick the name that you want to associate. But to me, I think it's absurd on Israel's part, or anybody that believes that taking out Charlie Kirk is somehow going to, them taking over is going to change anything. I don't think that's going to happen.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, I do think that clearly in the right, you basically had a split where a large proportion of people were going towards Nick, and there was a substantial amount of people who were still with Kirk. And I think Kirk obviously was seeing that there was a number of people moving towards Nick, and Kirk was himself moving. And so you could either, I explained this, you probably didn't come earlier, but you could either just allow it to happen the way it's going, and what would have happened is more people would have gone to Nick, and with Kirk, let's say he was against the war in Iran, and he was against some Israel positions, you would have the entirety of the right. Now, you can make the claim that Kirk had zero following. I just don't accept that. I think he did have some following, even if you don't like him. He had a decent following. He had a very big organization, multi-structured, many people in there. Apparently, there's 250,000 students just registered with them. So the risk of losing all of them and losing all of basically losing Kirk, along with already having lost Nick, you lose the whole of the United States of America, because they control the youth, with millennials and Gen X. And so you either allow that to happen, or you make a move to take control and consolidate. So that's kind of why it would really logically make sense. You can just sit there on your hands and just allow it to happen, or you make a move, take control of it. It's not just TPUSA, but it's all the aspects around it. So you make sure that some part of the right, albeit a lot smaller, remains, that there is this kind of Zionist right wing, evangelical, that is basically consolidated under TPUSA, and you have some kind of engagement interaction. And also you don't have this counter signal when they do plan to go into war with Iran. Jay, jump in.
Hey, what's going on? That was a great question and point, Kayla made. I wanted to respond to that. But before I do, Suli, I had to ask, man, is it okay if I talk about why decentralization plays a role in this? You know what I'm about to say. So I don't want to...
Let's leave it. Let's keep the space on the conversation we're having.
Okay, no worries. Well, yeah. As far as the assassination goes, at the end of the day, I hope this is something that we can raise enough awareness about to prevent them from corrupting the youth. Everyone is pretty much on point. I just encourage people to look into the power structures. So as we're talking to the youth, it's not only about anti-Zionism, but how to fix the system, moving forward. That's talking about, say, star voting systems, which are a lot cheaper than ranked choice voting, but still eliminate the spoiler effect. Talking about, the power that boards and committees have, talking about the influence of money on our election system. Like, there's solutions for all these problems. And the fact that the politicians aren't pushing for it is a sign that it's not working, even though we can identify where all the major problems are. And what people don't realize is so much money is wasted in America. Like, if you think about it, right, we just passed a gigantic infrastructure bill under Biden, and hardly anything has happened, and it hasn't really impacted the local economy, because the way these contracts are divvied up and shared is so corrupt. All the money goes to paying off politicians, and the people running these organizations to keep the money train flowing, and hardly anything goes into the actual project. So we're spending money so efficiently, and the corruption is not just, terrorizing our foreign policy. It's not just controlling, assassinating people, here in America, but it's preventing progress. So, hopefully, as we're, fighting back on the influence on young people, we can educate people about the systemic problems that also need to change. Because, if there's a country that's supposed to be able to, mold with the times, the American Constitution was supposed to be a living document. So, why can't we pass an amendment to get money out of politics? Like, the states can get together and call for a convention for it. So there are many ways we can make a difference, but, people need to just start organizing around solutions and not only about raising awareness about different problems. But, that was a key point Kayla made. Don't just, come onto these spaces and share it out, by the way, so we can get the information out there. Definitely educate yourself, but also really look into how you can make a difference offline and in your own community. And everyone has different ways of doing that. I'd encourage people to look into third-party options also, because you're not going to get any change from the duopoly. But yeah, keep the conversation going for sure.
Thanks for that. Give me 2 seconds, sorry. Let me just bring some more people up. Just rotate the panel a bit. It's just thanks for that. Give me 2 seconds, sorry. Let me just bring some more people up. Just rotate the panel a bit. It's just because I want to hear from some people. And guys, if there is something like really important you want to add to the conversation, then just send me a message and you're like, look, I've got this like cool things I want to say, then I'll bring you up. I'm just looking through the requests now to bring some people up.
All right, guys, he dropped me from the panel. Yeah, I don't agree necessarily with everything they have to say, and it's kind of irritating to a certain extent where everything just gets blamed on one particular thing as opposed to Occam's razor, which is, these are kids who are being groomed on the internet to do stupid shit. And these people want so badly to find a reason that is way more important than what the actual real reason is. In other words, they want it to have more meaning than what it really was. And I understand that. Nobody wants someone to die for something as silly as some jerk-off kid who, because he's involved with some tranny who's psycho, convinced this kid to do something to Charlie Kirk. And it may very well be that simple. We're not dealing with a normal society anymore. We're not dealing with normal people anymore. Ever since COVID, even prior to that. I mean, we didn't have anybody that was normal in our society. I mean, some normal. I mean, I'm being hyperbolic, but we don't have places to send these people anymore because of Ronald Reagan and prior to that, JFK. They got rid of the insane asylums. You see these memes over and over again that say we need to bring insane asylums back. Well, there's a reason for that, because the way things are happening now, it's not working. And then we're also not paying attention to these Reddit spaces. We're not paying attention to these spaces in Discord, et cetera, all these different places where these people are having these conversations. You're going to sit there and tell me that law enforcement can't figure out by going into any of these spaces who might be a potential problem? I think there is. So to me, I don't think it's as sophisticated as these guys want to make it out to be. I just don't. But maybe I'm wrong. And the argument is, okay, they wanted to take control of Charlie Kirk's massive presence in. Yeah, maybe that's right. But Ben Shapiro is talking about taking it over, and in all likelihood, they're talking about all this other Jewish influence taking it over. Do you honestly think that that's going to work? I don't think so. So, I don't know. Let's see what else is going on out here. This is more realistic. Let's listen to this.
President Trump, as a supporter who voted for you 3 times, I am hoping and praying that you will revisit what Barack Obama and Joe Biden got rid of back in 2013, which is the Smith-Mundt Act, which held news corporations accountable for lying to the American people and spreading propaganda instead of truth. I think instead of bringing it back as a Smith-Mundt Act, you name it the Charlie Kirk Act, you make it a law, and you make it damn near impossible for these people to continue to lie to the American public, which has brought chaos, hatred, division, and anarchy all across this country. President Trump. So is she wrong? Is it a grand conspiracy with Israel, or is she right? Is she, with what she's saying, is because of the Smith-Mundt Act, news corporations weren't allowed to propagandize. So is it her, or is it Israel? Or is Israel using the Smith-Mundt Act being eliminated to do what it is that they're doing? No one comes up with any explanation. No one ever comes up with, okay, they're trained here, they're groomed on this particular platform under this particular deal, and then they're sent out into the field, and everything's completely speculative. Everything. Let's see what Chief Trumpster is doing here.
I'm looking at that story right now. We had a good space at Clemson CR as we're talking about what's going on there. And look, there's a bunch of these people at Clemson that are really going mask off. So we'll be talking about that. I guess the point of the space here is just to go and point out a couple of stories I have that I want you guys to look at and amplify. One of them is a story that I covered with the Blue being compromised. We have a deputy that is right here, a deputy in Dent County that is apparently feeling like that it was okay for what happened to Kirk, and her community is afraid. I got at least two messaging me about this.
And by the way, all the people who are getting fired and losing their jobs, all the stuff that's happening to them for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, the other group, Suleiman and all of them, they have a problem because they think it's a violation of the First Amendment and everything. And in certain extents, I agree. But if you're encouraging violence, if you are encouraging it and you are celebrating it, it could potentially cross the line of inciting violence, which is illegal. And I just don't think that anyone's really taking any of this type of stuff serious enough. We should not be having these types of political assassinations in our country for any reason whatsoever. And to sit here and have a hair-splitting contest on whether or not celebrating it is free speech or incitement is, especially when a lot of these people are involved in healthcare in our country, seemingly forgetting about how they handled COVID. These are the same people who handled COVID and masking and everything else.
Over all the way, but not good, not good. If you just go through my whole timeline, you'll see a bunch of things. And I have gotten comments like, why are you talking about this? Why are you going and looking at these creatures for? And I mean, the reality is, if you're a right wing person in our country, like you are being targeted in such a level that it's gonna get worse. Like it really is. I can definitely foresee things just really going off the deep end in many more ways than it can possibly even express or even know about, honestly. And like we are at the turning point, no pun intended, of our country, and we either turn back and you know uh, deal with this thought head on, or we don't. And this little back and forth becomes something more than just a little back and forth, where you have things like this happen routinely. We really do have a tangible portion of the left that are all in on domestic violence and terrorism, and encouraging it and supporting it. It's legitimate. Like there is a significant portion of people. When you
I
have,
agree.
let's say, 500,000 likes, a
100%.
million likes, endorsing what happened and encouraging it, then yeah, we got a problem.
Yeah.
And it's gonna get a lot worse.
That's incitement.
So, yeah, this point, we just go and make a space here and just kind of highlight some stories that I have been covering, and encourage you guys to go and look into them as well and do your part. Like that's that's actually the most important thing for you to do your part.
All right. Yeah, I just think that these spaces, unfortunately, there's agendas. There's not a lot of deep thought from what's going on. It's conspiratorial, which at the same time, I understand that there is going to be that. But immediately, as soon as I say, I'm a bit confused, I get dropped from the panel because I'm not necessarily agreeing 100% about what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not saying that it's not happening. I'm not saying that Israel isn't behind it. I'm not saying any of that. But I'm also saying, why don't you explain to me in detail how? Explain to me, so is every dork that they can find on the internet, they turn into a cold-blooded assassin? Is that what they're doing all of a sudden? And then, okay, so now that Charlie Kirk's eliminated, so now everybody, all the Jews are going to take over TPUSA. How's that going to work out? How is that going to work out? Do you think that's survivable for TPUSA? No, it's not. It's simply not. And as soon as I say Nick Fuentes, I'm out. I'm out. So, but that just goes to show you, when I say that name, what ends up happening. All right, so those of you who are watching on Rumble, give me a shout out. Let me know who you are. People, are you still there? Give me some chats. Let me know if you're still around. See Timothy Waterman on Twitch. right, let's see what else. Quit drinking fluoride. Yeah, this one's good. The things that we should be, yeah, Israel killed Charlie Kirk. So that is Suleiman's name for his space. That Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Okay, I'm not saying, how dare you say that, but I'm also saying, okay, prove it. Give me some sort of background on where I can say, oh yeah, that makes sense. But in a lot of cases, when it comes to these politically charged things, it's like,
was legalized in the United States to propagandize its citizens. What?
Okay, so this background is about, and I'm going to leave it here after this video, but I did a video on the Smith-Mundt Act, which was eliminated in 2012 or 2013 by the Obama administration, which essentially allowed our media to propagandize its own citizens.
So in 2013, it was legalized in the United States to propagandize its citizens. What? Like, that's some scary third world stuff going on. That's the kind of stuff that people use to topple governments, to take away freedoms.
Yes, you heard that right. Almost a decade ago, propaganda was legalized in the United States with the passage of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which you've probably never heard of. The Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was buried in the 2012 National Defense Authorization Act for a good reason, because it repealed the 1948 Smith-Mundt Act, which authorized the State Department and the mainstream media to engage in propagandizing foreign countries, but it prohibited releasing that same propaganda in America for public consumption. This prohibition was lifted when the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was signed into law by Obama.
Very simply, Obama gave it a reboot in 2012. So, no matter how outrageous the propaganda may be, it's completely legal.
Propaganda, in other words, a false narrative for whatever specific.
Okay, so here's another thing. Unfortunately, I didn't realize he was in here. Roger Stone's a piece of shit. Okay? Roger Stone, an affiliate with Roy Cohn, who became intertwined in President Trump's campaign. I don't like this guy at all. So, my own opinion, by the way, on all this, as far as I'm concerned, this guy's not credible. And this is part of the problem. This is part of the reason why you have to say, who's telling the truth here anymore?
Purpose is now much, much easier to perpetrate on the people.
Due to the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which went into effect on July the 2nd of 2013, scripted and orchestrated propaganda can now be presented to the American public as factual news.
All right, everybody. That is the live stream for Sunday. I hope you all had a great weekend. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell once I go live again so you are notified. I appreciate you being here, those of you that are sticking around, and I will see you. Check out the latest videos I just posted, by the way, and I'll see you next week.